sitting there like all mute and shit. You weren't talking before that either. I don't know, like literally.
Okay, so all right, boys and girls, we're hopping right into it. Welcome to Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy here on the Sports Fan Base Network, Rhode Island. I am your host, Chet, and to my left this time is my wonderful counterpart, Duffy. Duffy, how we doing today, brother?
It's kind of weird that I'm on the left side this time. I think it's because I was the first one in here, maybe. I don't know. Maybe that is
Exactly.
weird, but I mean, I'm just hyped to be here again. Found how to add myself to the stream. Maybe that's why, but pretty hyped. Typical Wednesday night. And you know what the vibe is? It's me and Chet on SFBNRI at 7 p.m. We're going to get started soon.
Yeah, we did have a guest lined up to come on tonight, but unfortunately he was held up at work. So hopefully we will have him back next week. But hopping right into it, we're going to start off with some NFL talk. Off-season is coming up soon. March is approaching. That means big moves like free agency signings and all these other things are going to happen. So we're going to talk about 3 players right now that are either on the move or must stay with the team that they're on right now. And the first one, the biggest one, happened last week. J.J. Watt released after 9 seasons with the Houston Texans, and he was a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. And him and his organization just couldn't come to terms of what they were going to do together. So they've mutually separated. And I mean, this is a huge move, Duffy. I mean, looking at the career J.J. Watt has had with the Houston Texans, he's got a lot to offer going to other teams, even at around 31 years old.
Yeah, and that's especially true. You know, J.J. Watt, I think I said last week by accident that Andre Johnson may have been the best player in Texans history, but it's this guy. You know, he's been the face of the franchise for the better part of the last decade. You know, he's been the best pass rusher probably in my time watching football. You know, one of the signature players in the league the last 7-8 years. And it's a shame that his career in Houston has had to end like this, but really no surprise. You know, obviously a lot of dysfunction in the organization. You know, you heard J.J. Watt telling Deshaun Watson in week 17 after they lost that, you know, we just wasted one of your years, you know, after a great year by Deshaun Watson. But J.J. Watt has been pretty much wasted his whole career there. You know, 9 years, I think 2 playoff wins maybe. One of them was to get with Brock Osweiler. BS defeat. Three playoff wins, excuse me. No, 4, my bad. 4 playoff wins because they had Deshaun Watson 2 last year. But at the same time, you know, it's good for J.J. Watt, you know, find changing scenery. That's what a lot of these superstars want to do with their careers. And I'm excited for him looking forward. You know, I think he's not done yet. Only 5 sacks last season. But, you know, watching J.J. Watt, you know, he's a big playmaker. You know, he can wreak havoc on any play of the game, swatting down balls, making tackles for loss. You know, any team that's going to get him is going to become a better football team instantly. And I'm happy for J.J. Watt getting out of this, you know, mess of an organization.
Yeah, I definitely got to agree with you there. I mean, he's been there through the dog days and then through the glory times with this team, even though they weren't so glorious for most of his career. I mean, they made it. Exactly. I mean, he was there when Matt Schaub was there back in 2011 when this team was growing and got more talented and had a lot more players around them to really actually make playoff pushes. But now the scene's changed. Bill O'Brien has put this team in the trash can himself. It's caused complete havoc. Their own quarterback is considered leaving. And now they decided to free up salary cap space with J.J. Watt. And you're talking about a guy who has career high 101 sacks. He's in the 100 sack club, easily a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion. I mean, what he's brought to this team defensively is unmatched. You can't compare many great players to J.J. Watt, because J.J. Watt, despite being older in age, I think this is a chance for him to go to a new team and actually be part of something, a championship. That's what he is hungry for. And you know what? He's got a lot of people knocking at his door right now.
Yeah, like you were saying with the Matt Schaub, you know, that was a time, you know, back in 2011, 2012, where they looked poised to contend for a championship. I remember in 2012, they started 11-1. And that was the first time JJ won Defensive Player of the Year in his second year in the league. And, you know, so much hype around the team and the squad. The next year, they go 2-14 after starting 2-0. And ever since then, it's been kind of downhill slope, you know, especially with Bill O'Brien the last couple of years, really messing things up in the organization. You know, DeAndre Hopkins getting traded, and, you know, very seldom do we even see, you know, star franchise quarterbacks want to leave a team after signing for that payday. I mean, Deshaun Watson signed a 5-year deal back in September, and he already wants out. You know, that never happens. That's a true testament to how bad this team is and how bad this franchise is and what direction they're going in. But like you were saying, Chet, J.J. Watt poised to contend for a championship. You know, he hasn't really been to that level. You know, arguably last year when they almost made the AFC Championship game, but they blew it, obviously 20-0 with KC. But he has never really been on a team that was ever, you know, expected to reach a championship or even a conference championship. And, you know, a lot of these teams are looking after him, are poised to get him. And we saw notification today, J.J. Watt, you know, he called free agency wild, you know. So that means so many teams are looking after him because he is an elite player. He's a, you know, generational talent. And he's got to take advantage of this opportunity because he may never see free agency until he's out of his prime. And I think he is still capable of doing really good things for any football team he signs for.
Yeah, absolutely. And to silence all those doubters out there, because, I mean, really the big thing that people have with J.J. Watt, and I can see why, is he's been injured and banged up the past few seasons. I mean, he played 16 games from 2011 till 2015. He never missed a game.
Yeah.
But then 2016 and 2017, he played 3-16, 5-17. The last time he was in a complete season was this year and 2018. And he has not reached double-digit sacks since 2018, where he had 16. And the Texans were in the playoff conversation.
Year, right?
He only had, he had 5, which is good for his part. But I mean, obviously, he's definitely not in the right place. I think the schemes that they were running just weren't fitting. And there's definitely a lot more teams that can utilize him better, especially at his age. I mean, he's still got something to prove. I'll tell you that. Yeah. So, I mean, let's hop into it right now. Duffy, what is the team you think that is going to ink the deal with J.J. Watt?
Listen, I think J.J. Watt needs to go to a contender. He knows that in this point of his career, he's a Hall of Fame talent. But if he wants to really cement himself in that, you know, top 50, top 30 all-time players in general, he's got to win a championship. And I saw a notification today. I saw an alert that J.J. Watt could sign with the Buffalo Bills. I think that'd be a great fit, you know, for JJ going to Buffalo. He's from New York. You know, actually, I think he is. I don't even know where he's from, honestly. I'm pretty sure he's from New York.
I could check that for you.
But going to Buffalo, you know, this team went 13-3 last year. They're a complete team. You know, as Ron, our boss, you know, was saying to us, they're dirty. He says all the time, they're dirty. They are a dirty team. They have weapons on offense, Josh Allen, and that, you know, offense is really going to get points on the boards. The defense, not that they can play lax, but they don't have to worry as much with points. With Texans had to do a lot this year. You know, Deshaun Watson was a beast. Their defense was terrible on all sides of the ball, in every, you know, fashion. But the Bills defense, you know, they can hold teams to very little points out in the playoffs against the Ravens. You know, they're not going to be playing from behind that much either. So I think if he signs with the Bills, they'll really elevate them to that, you know, top tier, give them some good pass rush, because the Bills pass rush was not elite this year. It was pretty solid, but with J.J. Watt on that team going to a championship contender, you know, playing his brother Derek and TJ actually in the same conference, you know, as he has before, but I think it'd be a great fit for, you know, Watt to go to the Bills, because they're a team that's championship ready, and, you know, they were one game away from the Super Bowl this year, and they could have won that game potentially. So I like JJ of the Bills, man. I think that, even though I'm a Pats fan, hurts me to say, but I think it'd be a good fit for him.
Now, Duffy, I can understand where you're coming from there, because the
Now
Bills,
Duffy.
they're looking at an aging Jerry Hughes, a guy
Yeah.
who's definitely still got some power left in him, but you know what? JJ Watt's definitely got a harder punch than Jerry Hughes could ever offer it right now. But when you think about this, you mentioned how he would play his brother in the same conference.
Yeah.
I think he's going to play his brother twice a year from now on, because you know what? He's going to get inked by the Cleveland Browns, and pair him up with Myles Garrett. You're talking quite a pass rushing attack. Myles Garrett last season, 12 sacks, 4 forced fumbles. And I mean, this guy was at one point the top candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. And in the playoffs, we saw him go wild in Kansas City. I mean, we watched him run 50 yards downfield just to get Tyreek Hill or Patrick Mahomes, whoever it was. This dude came off the line and ran at least 70 yards total in his effort for that. But you know what? Keeping it grounded with J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt, like we said, he's got a lot to offer still. He's proven this year, playing a full season, healthy, after surgeries, that he's got something to prove. And you know what? The Cleveland Browns need that talent. This is a team that was on the cusp of going to the AFC Championship game with a shot at the Super Bowl. They had a better shot than the Buffalo Bills did the following week. They literally did. I can't say they would have beaten Buffalo, but the thing is, you get a healthy J.J. Watt on that team, and then a healthy Browns offense with OBJ on it, and Baker Mayfield slinging the ball, not having to worry about it on defense because he's got both Myles Garrett and J.J. Watt at that pass rush to bring down the opposing quarterback. I think the Browns are going to ink a deal with J.J., and he's going to be playing his brother twice a year.
Yeah, and like we were saying before the show, JJ, the Browns, that would be really similar to what we've seen before. JJ being paired up with another elite pass rusher, and Jadeveon Clowney, who really didn't take off until JJ got injured back in 16, 17, and then now obviously not on the team anymore. But that would be a crazy pass rushing duo. Like you were saying, Myles Garrett was the leading candidate for Defensive Player of the Year for almost half the year, honestly, probably the first. I mean, not like half the year, but at some points he did have 12 sacks. Really, he was also the Walter Payton Man of the Year candidate. Really improved his game in every asset ever since that little,
Yeah, after that, just that little thing with the
punch.
helmet, just the, light.
Yeah, that would be crazy. And that Browns team has a lot of talent. J.J. Watt, he was saying earlier this week that there was a report, actually. He didn't say anything because he's got to keep on the low, that he was intrigued by the Browns, championship possibilities. This team is rebuilt, one of the best rebuilds we've seen in the league the last few years, going 0-16 only 3 years ago, which is crazy to think about now, how they've had such a successful rebuild. But I like that take, Chet. That would be crazy to see. And I'm excited to see where he goes. And if he goes to Cleveland and he plays his brother twice a year, that would be, some great headlines. So we have to talk about that on this show. We would have to.
Before we get into the main headline,
we have to get a J.J. Watt Brown shirt if he goes to Cleveland.
Potentially,
that would be hype. That would be hype.
It would be hype. I mean, seeing him in a Cleveland Browns uniform, I thought J.J. Watt was going to be a Texan for the rest of his career.
Yeah, exactly. I thought he was a ride or die, live until, he retires type of guy to be on the same team for his whole career, But clearly not. A lot has changed these last few years, and to a team that went 0-16 the other year, that would be crazy.
Absolutely. So another player who right now doesn't really look like he's going to go anywhere, but that's possibilities always on the table. In Dallas, Texas, we have a quarterback who has struggled to get the contract he deserves. Dak Prescott, easily one of the best quarterbacks in the league right now, had a terrible injury this past season where he broke his ankle. Horrific injury. I remember you and I, Duffy, were talking about this on First Things Last year. And I mean, just looking at Dak's career numbers, the way he is projecting to go, he just looks like he couldn't be stopped. In 2019, 4,902 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, and 11 picks. You're talking about a guy who's on the cusp of breaking 5,000 passing yards, and no contract deal has been made. Last season was the time to do it, but they held off once again. Dak stays with his tag and his rookie contract, and now we're back at square one again. Do they re-sign him?
It's honestly disrespectful that, they haven't been able to come to terms with a long-term deal. We've seen all the other quarterbacks get these huge paydays, like Nick Foles, for example, the other year. Mahomes, even with signing for $500 million, Dak will be lucky to get even half of that, to be honest. But he's Dak Prescott, like you were saying. He has had such a great trajectory through his career. He's really improved every year except for the second year, which he was pretty mediocre in. But last year, like you were saying, 30 touchdowns, 11 picks in 2019, and in 2020, if he plays the whole year, they win that division, no doubt about it. In my opinion, he was on pace for a historic year, over 5,000 yards passing. And when you have a quarterback like this, really going to be one of the, honestly, one of the best late round picks maybe ever, with the path that he's on, being a fourth rounder out of Mississippi State in 2016. You got to re-sign him. He's your franchise quarterback. He's better than any version of Tony Romo that I saw in his career, honestly. He's the best quarterback you're going to get. And I think if he keeps playing at this level with the arsenal of weapons he has, because that's a really talented football team around. We know that. Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup, Zeke. Dak isn't the problem. You got to lock him up for years to come. Fix that defense a little bit, because that defense was historically one of the worst we've ever seen last year. I think they allowed almost 300 points by the midpoint of the season, which is crazy.
Yeah.
So you really got to, sign this guy, lock him up. And, we've seen the last few years of him getting franchise tagged year in, year out. Probably going to get franchise tagged this year too. I don't think he's going to leave Dallas because they'd be really stupid to let him walk. But, you got to sign this man. You got to pay this man, and you got to keep him for the foreseeable future at least.
I definitely have to agree with you right there, because I remember when we were looking at the projections and the way the numbers were. I mean, you're talking about Dak Prescott literally for 2 straight weeks threw for over 400 yards and came back in games. The Dallas Cowboys offense with Dak at the helm, unbelievable. I just remember against the Cleveland Browns when they were down huge, Dak suddenly out of nowhere is completing the most unbelievable passes I have ever seen in my life.
They were never out of that game,
No, and they got within 3 points.
They were down like 28 points or something. Yeah.
Yeah. I believe it was, I forget what the score was, but the final score was like 52-41.
49-38 was the final.
Yeah.
So they got to 41-38 after being down they were down 38-10 or something in that game. It was something crazy like that, and they came all the way back.
Yeah. So, I mean, you look at what he's done.
Put him to sleep.
Yeah. OBJ put him to sleep. But, I mean, you look at what he's done. The numbers he's putting up. That's talent. I know, I go back to what you say about the disrespect to him, because it is disrespectful. You're talking about a franchise guy who year to year continues to grow and show how great of a QB he is in this league. And then you sign Ezekiel Elliott, which I can understand. He's easily one of the best running backs in the league when his O-line is healthy. But I just don't get it. I really don't get why they pay the man. I mean, I understand why there's contract issues. And obviously you see somebody like Patrick Mahomes get $500 million just because he is great, and he is great. But
he's the great one, the great Patrick Mahomes.
And I can understand.
Pretty good himself,
Yeah, but I can understand that Dak wants to get paid, but he doesn't want to get screwed. That's the bottom line. He doesn't want to get screwed by some crap contract and be like Tom Brady, who just barely scrapes by because he's taking pay cuts all the time just to keep the team talented.
Yeah.
So he's talent. Is he worth $500 million? Absolutely not. Oh, no way in hell am I giving that guy $500 million. But he wants something north of $100 million, maybe even $200.
Which he deserves,
Yeah.
Even a guy like Derek Carr, who signed a $138 million contract, and the worst,
get out of here.
The most disrespectful example, in my opinion, is Jimmy Garoppolo signing a $137.5 million contract after 20-something starts. It's crazy. It's the trying to think of the word. The double standard, it doesn't make any sense. I don't know if that's to do with Dak being a black quarterback. A lot of people have to say that. That has a lot to do with it. But you got to pay this man. There's no excuse that these other bum quarterbacks, even Kirk Cousins, $84 million guaranteed, are getting all these deals. But Dak Prescott,
guy only gets up to one playoff run. They suck.
Yeah, exactly. And even though the Cowboys have a lot of other guys in that team making money, for example, Amari Cooper signed a huge contract last offseason. Zeke, $90 million contract a couple of years ago. but Dak is the best player in your team. He's the only reason you guys are winning games in the first place. You guys were 2-3 when he got injured, and I think they lost like their next 6 games after that. So
Yeah, with Andy Dalton. So I
keep
mean,
it, man.
you have to keep this
There's
guy.
3-8 with Dalton, dude. There's 3-8 with Dalton.
But enough about the discussion here with Dak. So basically, to wrap this one up in a bow, I'm going to start some conversation here. I'm going to start. This is going to be a bold move I make now. Okay. I'm going to say Jerry Jones suddenly comes to a standstill and says, this is the offer, this is the final offer, and this is as far as we'll go. And Dak stands up for himself and says, no, and walks away. And then Dak Prescott is the top quarterback on the market, free agent-wise. He would be the top free agent in the league. And I don't know where he'd sign, but I think they're going to come to my conversation starter here is Dak walks away and decides to become a free agent after this year.
Hey, that is a hot take.
A hot take. I'm coming in hot with this one. Scolding.
I mean, I personally don't think he's going to, leave yet. I mean, I could see it in the future. I think he's going to stay at least one more year. And they're going to tag him this year. But if he leaves, there are a lot of teams that would give him more than Dallas would offer him, because the league's not dumb. They know this guy's an elite talent. He is, going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league this decade, in my opinion. So, Chet, if he walks away, who do you think would be a team that would, suit for him? Who do you think is a team that would, reach out for him, just grab him?
I mean, prime candidates here.
Contract. Yeah.
Obviously, if we're talking about low-tier teams that have the salary cap to do it, probably teams like the New York Jets, maybe the Jacksonville Jaguars, or even the Denver Broncos. But if I had to pick a contender that would take him now, that's a tough one.
I like that Jets pick because, we've seen a lot that Deshaun Watson might want to go to the Jets. Like you were saying, low salary cap team. They have a lot of money to spend but they have no talent on that roster at all. But big market. And
another team
that attracts a lot of guys. And I could see Dak possibly, choosing a team with a big market such as the Jets.
Here's some two dark horses I would pick right now.
Who?
The Indianapolis Colts and the Chicago Bears. Yeah. Imagine pairing him up with Allen Robinson or pairing him up with T.Y. Hilton and certain guys on that team offensively like Naheem Hines, Jonathan Taylor, and then in Chicago, I mean, their running backs are kind of a joke as it is, but I mean,
Montgomery's nice.
Yeah, Montgomery's nice. Yeah, he's right, but if
he's
that moves, I think those. Yeah, I mean that's the thing.
I say Montgomery
definitely. Yeah, his best bet is Indy. You're talking about a solid defense, solid offense that can get you down the field, and I think Dak has what it takes to do that. Will he leave? I don't know, but I'm going with the hot take on this one.
Dak to Indy, they'd be an instant contender. Like you were saying, elite defense, elite D line, elite linebackers, elite O line, elite running backs. Not really elite
team at that point.
That is one of the most complete teams in the league. And like we've seen a lot that Indy might trade for a quarterback, a la Carson Wentz. Probably not going to happen with how it's looking right now. But if Dak Prescott ever went to the Indianapolis Colts, my hatred for the Colts would just multiply.
Multiplied from the Peyton Manning years.
Yeah, because when the Pats played the Colts, I couldn't really hate the Colts that much because we always beat the Colts.
Yeah, it was a one-sided rivalry, but it was there. You're talking about two great quarterbacks going head-to-head.
But I started watching football like the year that Manning joined the Broncos. I want to make that clear. I'm talking about the Andrew Luck Brady era.
I started intently watching when the Patriots went to the Super Bowl against the New York Giants in 2011.
Yeah, that was the year I did too. Or that was like the first game I watched like in
completion. Yeah.
Yeah. And then 2012 was when I really took off.
Same. All right. And now for the third and final one. This has been nearly a half hour. We'll try and wrap this up as quick as we can. Deshaun Watson. We were just talking about his teammate was just released and how for the past few weeks, Watson has been asking for a trade. He has not been successful with this organization, and this organization has not helped him to be successful. So what's on the table? Does he stay with Houston or does he go and they get a deal inked? Duffy, let's hear it from you first.
Listen, I know Nick Caserio, the Texans GM, he said a lot that they don't want to trade Deshaun Watson, and that's fine. But I don't see any way in which Deshaun Watson suits up for the Texans next year, whether it's sitting out this season or getting traded sometime in the offseason. I think it's going to happen. We saw Matt Stafford get traded out of the blue the other week for Jared Goff. Not out of the blue because he requested the trade, but after 12 years with the team and he got traded, you're telling me Deshaun Watson couldn't either,
Yeah.
He has a pretty good team. I would assume he's Deshaun Watson. I think he'll get traded for a lot of picks. I think if a team gives the Texans like an elite offer for Watson, I think they can't not take it. Obviously, like more than half of the league has reached out to them, but you're telling me if a team offered 6, 7 first-round picks that they wouldn't take it? I don't know. I think they could.
Yeah,
I think it's gonna be a lot to even pick up the phone, honestly.
Honestly, because you got to have some balls to put your franchise on the line like that to get a guy like him. But at the same time, it's all for a good cause. Because
the Michael Jordan of basketball.
Because you look at Deshaun Watson's numbers from when he was a rookie.
Football, sorry.
1,699 passing yards, and then he multiplies that by 4 in 2018. 4,165 passing yards, 26 touchdowns, and 9 picks. He had a little slump year in 2019. 2020, his team wasn't hot at all, but he was on fire. 4,823 passing yards, 33 touchdowns, and 7 picks with a team that went 4-12.
That garbage. That team was garbage.
Absolute dumpster fire of an organization and a team as a whole. And like you said, J.J. Watt apologized to him because this was another year in his career that his team flopped. And Deshaun Watson, he has seen the light. He understands now he's getting screwed out of a prime career for him. He does not want to wait for a rebuild because it looks like that's where the Texans are heading right now. He is looking to win now.
So a rebuild, it's a complete upheaval if you're the Texans. They have nothing to work with. Your 2 best players both want out. One of them already got out in J.J. Watt. So honestly, I don't want to see Deshaun Watson pull some Le'Veon Bell crap and sit out the entire year. I really don't want to see that from him. So I really hope he gets traded because, like you were saying, they're wasting his career. They're wasting his prime. I think there's got to be one team dumb enough to give up a ton of picks.
Obviously, you have a team like the New York Jets who could definitely afford it after getting all that capital back from Jamal Adams going to Seattle. Will they do it? I don't know. Maybe they'll go with younger talent going into the draft.
Yeah.
But teams that could use them are New York, Miami, and Indy. These are teams, and Chicago. 4 teams right there that could really use him. And I think he's going to get dealt. I don't see any way that he stayed at this rate. Deshaun Watson's fed up. He's basically said that he's fed up. He didn't literally say it, but he figuratively said it. And you know what? I'm convinced, just from watching where the team's going, the Texans are getting crapped on every game. People are crapping all over him. And he's had enough. And I've had enough. I've had enough of watching the Texans play like crap because it's like, it's just the Texans and Bill O'Brien screwing you guys over once again.
I think when I knew it was done was when the Texans lost to the Bengals at home in Week 16. I was God. You guys just lost to the freaking Bengals at home.
And they didn't even have their starting quarterback.
Yeah, they had freaking Brandon Allen dropping dimes. I watched that game. Remember, I got home from work. I was watching that game, and I saw on the bottom screen it was like Brandon Allen, 325 pass yards, or like 350 or something. And I was like, dude, what the hell?
It's unbelievable.
Brandon Allen. But like you were saying, Chet, I think he gets traded before season started. I don't think he's going to sit. I really hope he doesn't. No. But I think he might get traded sooner than we think. I think this is one of the most, deeply talented quarterback draft classes this year that we've seen in a while. Zach Wilson, Justin Fields, Mac Jones, and the obvious Trevor Lawrence. So I think a lot of these teams that are looking to get a quarterback, that are looking to go. Sorry, I think a lot of these teams are looking to get a quarterback.
Yeah.
if they don't do it in the draft, then at least one of them might make a move for Deshaun Watson, because Deshaun Watson is a safer bet than any of these guys you're going to see in the draft.
Yeah.
Because he's a proven quarterback. So I think one of those teams that's hungry for a quarterback is, going to make the leap. And with the Texans too, they can get some picks on draft night this year if they, decide to make the trade now and start the rebuild a little bit earlier, because Deshaun Watson is not going to stay with the team longer than this year, I don't think.
No.
So I think they got to start thinking about it now, because they got to make a move now. Get the best offer you can, because there's going to be a lot of good offers on the table, and one of them I think is going to have to suffice for them to pull the trigger on this.
Absolutely. All right,
you don't lose him for nothing,
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, to finalize and sweeten this segment here, let's hear which team he's going to.
I was thinking about this. I don't even know, honestly. I think there's three teams. I think there's two teams really that I could see.
First team that comes to your mind. Go.
Miami.
Okay. Wasn't what I was expecting, but it's solid.
Miami is a talented team. And, Tua, I mean, I don't really like the move of, getting rid of Tua after a year of him starting, because obviously he's a quarterback. He's going to have a lot of ups and downs. We saw that with Josh Rosen too. I'm not saying Tua's anything like the chosen Rosen.
I hope not.
I think Tua's better than Josh Rosen. But if you can flip that for Deshaun Watson, if you can put him on a team that just went 10-6 and missed out on the playoffs with a proven defense, it's another great rebuild, by the way. The Miami Dolphins, besides the Browns, I think they've had the best rebuild in the league the last couple of years.
Yeah.
But I think if they can make a blockbuster deal, they have a lot of, picks this year too. Miami, one of them being from Houston in the top 5 for Laramie Tunsil, if you remember that.
Yeah.
I don't think they get rid of that, but I think that if Miami can make this move for Deshaun Watson, I haven't heard anything about it in a while, but I think that'd be a great fit for him staying in the AFC and going to a really talented young squad, which could be good for a really long time.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree, but I'm going to go with a different AFC East team. I'm going to say the New York Jets will do what it takes to get this guy, because you know what? The New York Jets, they're sick of being the laughing stock of the NFL. Like, every single year, it's the Jets, and they suck. I'm telling you, if you're talking about a football team that is the most forgettable performances and the most forgettable teams, it's the New York Jets. I don't give a crap about the days with Mark Sanchez when you went to the AFC Championship twice in one season, ended up coming home because you suck. I'm telling you, this team just freaking sucks. It is disgusting to talk about them week to week. And you know what? They're tired of it. They're tired of people like Jamal Adams and Le'Veon Bell being fed up with being on their team. They want people to come to them. They don't want to seek out anybody. So this is the move they make, is by trading away picks and getting Deshaun Watson, because you know what? He's proven he's worth it. And you know what? He wants you. He wants to come and play for you guys. He's even said he would do Miami or New York. But you know what? I think New York will find a way to make this happen. And I love the butt fumble pick right there in the background. I remember watching that Thanksgiving Day when it happened, and I was laughing my ass off. Most funniest play. I was in North Carolina, actually, for Thanksgiving that year, and I was watching that because they were my mom's family, and they're all actually from New York, but they all moved to North Carolina. And I remember my mom's cousin's husband was on the phone with one of her cousins who lives in New Hampshire and who's a Patriots fan, and he goes, "Go Jets!" He goes, "Go Jets! Pats suck!" And he hangs up the phone. And then the Patriots blew them out that night. So I was dying laughing.
Remember, they got up 35-0 that game. I think this was the second or third touchdown of the game. They scored 3 touchdowns in 30 seconds this game, but that's the point. Hopefully, Deshaun does not end up like this.
That's the crap I'm talking about. They need somebody.
Yeah, hopefully, he don't end up like this hopefully, he doesn't end up like this if he goes to New York. But like you were saying earlier, Chet, 2 really good points. First of all, the Jamal Adams trade, giving them a lot of draft capital, a lot of cap room that they could use on Deshaun Watson, and big market city. Who wouldn't want to play in New York? We were talking about it with Dak too. Big market teams. A lot of these guys are attracted to New York. We've seen the Giants and Jets attract free agents. Not really the Jets as of late, because they are the Jets, but really good city. And Deshaun Watson has stated himself, or has been reported to be intrigued by going to the Jets, and that this is the destination he wants to go to. Pretty interesting that we both have him going to the AFC East. Kind of sucks at the same time, though. You
Yeah,
know,
just means somebody for the Patriots to play.
having to see to Josh Allen and potentially Deshaun Watson 4 times a year.
That'd be crazy. That'd be crazy.
That would suck. That would be crazy. That would legitimately suck. That would suck.
It would suck. Anyways, we just literally talked about 3 guys for 35 minutes, so we're going to hit a commercial break.
That's our specialty.
It is our specialty, but we're going to hit a commercial break real quick, and when we get back, we're going to talk some Celtics, and we're going to talk about the Nets' huge comeback last night over the Phoenix Suns. Stay tuned for more on Unapologetic. All right, sports fans, welcome back to Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. Check out some of those other podcasts we had linked in those commercials there. You can check them out at sbfnri.com, and you can find our podcast there. And also check out our live coverage of sports, because I've actually commentated a few games, and I'm actually going to be at one this week, hopefully. So definitely check those out. We're covering basketball and hockey right now, but football soon to come, to be determined. They're in discussion right now about it, but check those out. We broadcast them live and just hit the big red button right there at the homepage, and you'll have live access to all our live sports that we cover. So hopping into NBA basketball, last night, what a comeback by the Brooklyn Nets. I mean, like you said before the show, Duffy, you're down Kevin Durant. And I totally just forgot the name completely. Yeah, Kyrie, obviously Kyrie Irving. And you just have James Harden, a guy who was dealt here, who had a lot of problems with Houston and still kind of a little bit of hiccups with Brooklyn. But last night, they were down by, I think me and my brother turned on the TV, and they were down 70 to like 49 at one point. Yeah. Absolutely horrible. Me and my brother shut the TV off. We're like, they're not coming back. And they win the game 128-124. Harden puts up 38 points against this team to lead them in the comeback. And Duff, what do you think? It's an unbelievable performance.
Like you were saying, they were down 21 at halftime. No one was picking the Nets before to win this game. I actually bet on the Nets. They were like plus 270 for the game, put down $4.20, and netted me like $11, so I was pretty hyped, betting on Harden, going on the road in Phoenix in that empty crowd. But it was awesome, great comeback victory by the Nets. And, this is a team who had a lot of question marks, coming into this game, really poor defense the last few outings, and in general, the whole season. They've had one of the worst defensive ratings in NBA history up to this point. But they put the clamps on third and fourth quarter. They had a huge game. They shot a lot of really great threes this game. Watch the second half. Joe Harris was getting involved. Tyler Johnson getting involved with those threes. Harden is a playmaker. He gets all of his teammates involved. And, it's really awesome to watch this team play, man, because they're really showing they can win in a lot of different ways, and that they can't just rely on their offense to win games, and that they want to win these games, especially these close games against good teams like the Phoenix Suns. You got to step up on defense. That's exactly what they did last night, despite missing 2 of their 3 best players.
Yeah, I totally have to agree with you. I mean, James Harden last night, he really rallied his team by those highlights I got to watch after the fact. And I mean, they just turned it around somehow. And I mean, just looking at the stats of this game, I mean, 38 points for Harden. That's amazing right there, right off the bat. Like I said, Joe Harris, though, like you mentioned, scored 22 points last night. And then, oh my God, my page is going nuts right now. I'm looking at ESPN. And then you got Tyler Johnson, like you also said, netting himself 22 points in this matchup. Correction, 17. It was 17. And then off the bench, they had some good shots from Jeff Green, who netted himself 18 points. To collect my thoughts here and kind of produce what I'm going to say is he's doing what he did in Houston. With his play and performance, it rallied his whole team to step up. And this is the defining moment, I think, this season to start for the Brooklyn Nets. This is the push they needed to really cement themselves in the league and say, we're here, we're contenders, and we've got something to offer. Because the Phoenix Suns said they were 17-9 going into this matchup. And when we were watching, me and my brother, I mean, Chris Paul and Devin Booker, they were going off. They were going off the whole first half. Unbelievable game.
51 combined points between the two. You know, it was an elite backcourt.
And it's crazy because we were talking about how Chris Paul, even at 36 years old, he's doing better than Devin Booker right now.
Yeah.
In the league. So, I mean, this is a defining moment for the Brooklyn Nets to cement themselves in a position to make a finals run because they are easily one of the most talented teams in the East. But they're a team that people sleep on because of their three core guys and saying they don't play defense. And that is a problem. I definitely am going to put that into consideration here because Harden has proven at times that he relaxes on defense and then only tries on offense. We've seen it time and time again. If you can play games like this, you're going the whole way. I'm telling you right now, this team will go the whole way if they continue to keep this energy up game to game. So that's what they got to do is just keep stepping up in each game. They've been on a win streak, but this really pushed them going forward.
Really did. You know, they were 17-12 entering the game. You know, I think they were like 500 a few games ago. So they've really, you know, been on a nice tear and they're really going to keep on moving forward, I think, in the right direction. You know, that fourth quarter was huge. They were entered the quarter down 12. They outscored them by 16. They trailed the entire game until that James Harden three with, I think, like 30 seconds left, which was crazy. He's a fantastic player to watch. He makes everyone around him better. Without this was, you know, the best acquisition in the league this year, without a doubt, getting Harden.
Absolutely.
You guys in Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and, you know, and at the end of the day, you know, talent wins in this league. And when you have three of the top maybe 12 players in the league, you know, you're definitely a contender. So this game really proved that, really helped further solidify that. And going against a really good team in Phoenix, you know, that was a huge win. Huge win on the national TV.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with you. I mean, right now, the Brooklyn Nets, they sit at number 2 behind the Philadelphia 76ers, who are actually a game ahead of them right now. Milwaukee Bucks not so far behind. Then you got the Boston Celtics, the Indiana Pacers, the New York Knicks, who finally have pushed themselves into the playoff conversation at the 6th seed. The Toronto Raptors and the Charlotte Hornets. So if I had to pick a team in the East right now that can really contend with this team, it's probably going to be the 76ers. I mean, we talked about it with Mike and Ben last week. I mean, that team, for some reason, every single year, they've just found a way to kind of just suck for no reason out of nowhere when it matters. But this looks like a different 76ers team. They are definitely the top dogs right now in the East. And I mean, the Bucks, they're not far behind too. They've definitely got the depth and the stars to really contend with this team. But I will not be surprised if we hit the All-Star break and the Nets are sitting on top of the East.
Yeah, I won't be surprised at all. You know, they're really on a tear now. You know, playing great basketball in their last 10 games. They're 6-4, which, you know, doesn't sound too good on paper, but this was a team that was struggling at the beginning of the season, you know, trying to find their groove, trying to find their chemistry, especially with, you know, Kyrie out for like a few weeks, taking that break, you know, KD coming back from the Achilles injury, you know, that he sustained in 2019. But this team is really clicking. They're really going to hit their stride. And they if they don't sit atop the East by the All-Star break, I'll be surprised because they're only one game back.
Yeah.
So,
And it's really crazy because I mean the East seems to find a way each season to make things tough for talented teams. I mean, we haven't seen a team this stacked in a while in the East, but I mean, for the most part, there's a lot of challenges in the East. The West, it's more clear and cut for the most part. I mean, we see the LA Lakers sitting on top for the most part. I mean, it's just tough to say, but I think right now, well, I mean, obviously they're in second, but they've got what it takes, the Lakers as well, to get to the top. It's these studs on these teams, these core players that make this team great. So, like you said, I would be surprised too, but don't shy away from the Brooklyn Nets. They are for real this season.
Yeah, and the big question is going into the playoffs, which they're obviously going to make, is can their defense, clamp up against these good teams? And that could be their downfall in the playoffs. I honestly don't think it will at this point in the season. I think they're too deep to lose a game. They not only have a great big three, but they have other really good pieces around. Tyler Johnson, Joe Harris, Jeff Green, as you were saying too. And this is a really talented roster. Yeah, and the Bucks, like you were saying, a lot of depth in that team. Giannis Antetokounmpo, Chris Middleton, really big power duo, but they struggled in the playoffs through the last few years. I think the Bucks and the Sixers they're really the only teams that could contend against the Nets right now. And really, it's kind of only the Sixers for me right now.
Yeah,
I don't think the Bucks would beat the Nets, 4 times in 7 games. I really don't. They had a game against them the other week. Me and you both watched that game, I believe.
Yeah.
But Sixers, I was watching the last week. Last week I did say on the show that they do tend to choke in the playoffs with Mike, but this team is for real this year. This team is different. Ben Simmons, 42 points the other night against the Jazz. Joel Embiid really coming into his own this year. A top 5, top 4 MVP candidate. Leading the charge for that 6 team in the Eastern Conference. They're on track to get the 1 seed this year. A lot of these Eastern Conference teams have really struggled. Like the Celtics, who are at the 4th seed right now, but they're only 1 game over 500. They have not looked like the same team at all this season. They've looked terrible this year.
Yeah.
In terms of Boston, in terms of the Boston Celtics having the last 6 years.
Now that's a great tie-in for this topic. The Boston Celtics. This is a team that in the beginning of the season looked really good, but now they've kind of hit the dog days of this season. They thankfully just won the other night. That was huge over the Denver Nuggets, 112-99. But before that, you lose to the Wizards, 104-91. That was pitiful. The Pistons, 108-1.
That was painful. Not only that painful, that was painful.
It was so painful to watch. Pistons, 108-102. They did defeat the Raptors by 16. That's huge. But then you lose to the Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns. Very, very tough days for Boston. But you look at that Wizards game. Jason Tatum, I believe, in that one was 2 for 13 and only got 6 points. And then you see Jaylen Brown and Kemba Walker each combining for each having 26 points in that game. The problem with Boston right now is they're expecting these 3 guys to perform every single game. And it's proven that they're not all going to be able to do that every single game. Boston's depth isn't as good as people think it is. It's definitely not. And if they keep this up, they could fall down in seeding to at least the 5th or 6th seed. Right now they're sitting at 4th, which is where they've been in most of the season. But I love the guys they have in Boston. But the problem is they got to figure out how to do it every game, or at least get other people involved in the game that can really keep this team going forward.
Yeah, and like you were saying, Chet, they started off nice. They really struggled the last few games, especially with Jason Tatum out with COVID for a little bit. Said yesterday that he was still having some respiratory issues from it as a result of the virus. Really, and a reminder to stay home, everybody. These big athletes and have these.
If you never got the memo from last March,
if you still haven't gotten the memo the last 11 months, stay home, be safe. But like you were saying, Chet. This team really has not looked good as of late. They don't look like a 4 seed, honestly. They had a big win last night against Denver, which was huge for them, winning by, I think it was like 12 points or something last night. They had a little bounce back game, but
12-99.
Yeah, that Wizards game, though, was terrible. A lot of these games recently for the Celtics have been ugly. That Jazz game that they played, they lost by over 20 points.
Yeah.
That was terrible too.
Yeah.
They're playing the Hawks currently. By the way, they currently trail by 4.
Yeah.
First quarter.
Like, come on, guys.
They're
like,
at home. They didn't get a win, but it's just been tough watching. They have not been consistent this year at all, as opposed to the last couple of years, that we're used to seeing. But they just gotta get their click together. They got to rebuild their chemistry, which they've really struggled. Since Tatum was out for a couple of weeks with the virus. But if they can just click again, get the defense going, get the bench rotating nicely. They have a lot of spots this team. Tatum, obviously, Brown, obviously, who's having a career year. Kemba Walker has been pretty mediocre this year. If he can just step it up and make some shots. But Peyton Pritchard's doing that too off the bench. The Celtics, one of the best rookies in the league this year. And they got a lot of young talent. They got to start utilizing it more and really taking advantage of what teams got to have them looking at,
Yeah. Absolutely, because you don't have key pieces there anymore, like Jay Crowder, who could come up in good situations, or even Terry Rozier.
Yeah, that's huge. Terry Rozier
that was a huge loss this year. It's crazy, and Terry Rozier is tearing it up in Charlotte with the Hornets right now. So the Celtics,
it hurts.
Yeah, it does hurt. And looking at the Celtics box score right now, they are currently down 19-15. Obviously, after this is out, we should be well into the second quarter, maybe even the end of probably into the second quarter. So the score will change by then. But hopefully they get themselves back on track tonight against Atlanta. All right, so we're going to take one more commercial break. And when we get back, we're going to talk about the NHL and the Boston Bruins, because the Bruins, they are on a tear right now. We're going to give you some more in-depth coverage in just a moment. All right, welcome back to our final segment tonight. We're going to talk about the Boston Bruins here on Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. Now, obviously, Duffy, you're no expert with hockey.
I'm no expert on puck, but I'm going to try my hardest.
Yeah, so you look at the Boston Bruins this season, and obviously I'm no expert with basketball, but we try and keep it even keel. We're going to try and talk about everything we can on the show that deals with major sports. So looking at the Boston Bruins right now, they sit atop of the East at 22 points with 10 wins and 2 losses and 2 overtime losses. They're set up in a great position right now, because I remember in the beginning of the season on Titletown Throwdown, which is on Thursdays, you can check it out. Great show. I remember it was the first week hockey started, and the Bruins, they came out looking scrappy. They just didn't look very good. You look at the beginning of the season, they lose right away to the Islanders 4-2. They win 1-0 over the Rangers. This is the Rangers we're talking about. Actually, let me take it back. I was looking at most recent. So they win against the Devils 3-2 in a shootout.
They just lost to the Islanders. So
no, I'm an idiot. My bad.
Did both of their losses come to the Islanders?
Okay, so one came to the Islanders.
They did lose to the Islanders, actually, in January 18th. So.
Yep, that's what I was going to get to. They lost to the Devils the next round in overtime, 2-1, and then lost to New York 1-0. And it was in this game, I remember on Titletown Throwdown, they were Nick was talking about this. And it's a great point, because he was talking about how you have core guys like Brad Marchand, Patrice Bergeron. These are guys that can get you goals and get you points for your team. They just needed to do something to get the puck in the net. That's all it came down to. And to be honest, they stepped up to the call. They won 4 straight. They lost in overtime to the Washington Capitals. They were down 3-0 on Monday after the Saturday game and came back and scored 5 unanswered goals, winning that game 5-3. And they've been on a tear ever since. So, I mean, to look at this team, I have always loved the setup that the Boston Bruins have brought out year to year. I mean, from the days when Milan Lucic was here and even Zdeno with Chara here. I mean, obviously he's with the Washington Capitals now, but they've always had great cores. And the thing is, the core, it's aging. It's getting to the point where Bergeron now is 35, 36. Marchand's in his 30s now. I mean, you're talking about a lot of guys getting old. And this team still hasn't won a championship since 2011. So, I mean, they had a chance against the Blackhawks. They had a chance against the Blues. They lost both. So now, I mean, it's do or die with this team. They lead this division, but they still got a lot of powerhouses to go through.
Yeah, like you were saying, they haven't won a championship in 10 years, but they've kept a lot of those same guys around. I know Bergeron and Marchand being the really two prime examples. But this team, like you were saying earlier, Chet, struggled at the goal and the puck earlier in the year. They still haven't scored a ton of goals, only 40 on the season through 14 games, or 42, I believe. Still 3 a game, but you know, they're not up there in that category, but they've had great goaltending. You know, they've 10-2-2, obviously, without producing like too much offense. That is pretty impressive. You know, this Bruins team 2 years ago, this team was in a championship, and they're looking back to get there this year. I really think they're capable of it. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, that's the goal, because we haven't seen a Boston championship in like 3 years. So
yeah, I mean, yeah, for the city, period. And
that's
I
just
mean,
wrong, man.
yeah, I mean,
If
but
any
looking at
team is gonna do it now, it's probably these guys. If we're gonna be honest.
yes, absolutely, they are the top guys right now, probably behind the probably in front of the Boston Celtics right now.
For sure.
The toughest teams they're going to have to face, though, the Islanders have proven that they've kind of got Boston's number right now.
Yes.
Boston has kind of settled itself against the Capitals. The Capitals sit in 4th place in the East. Still a lot of hockey to play, but you're talking about teams like the Stanley Cup winning Tampa Bay Lightning that are now at full strength. Steven Stamkos back and healthy as ever. And you've got a great core there. And then the Toronto Maple Leafs, they currently lead the NHL with 24 points. And that's a team that has taken a while to really get to where they are. I mean, they've been in the conversation for a few years, but they've dipped on and off. But you know what? This is a team that is definitely going to bring a lot of power to this league and to the Boston Bruins. So, I mean, and then the Vegas Golden Knights. Those are the top teams right now in the NHL.
They're first in the West, right? The Golden Knights?
Yeah, the Golden Knights are first with 21 points. And then the Blues as well, who the Boston Bruins traded Torrey Krug to, which I'm still salty about.
Man.
Still very salty about, because the Blues were a team in the finals. I remember watching that finals. It was dirty. There was just guys getting hit left and right on Boston and the Blues side. I mean, I'm pretty sure there was a fight that could have broke out in that game, because they were at each other's throats that whole series. So, I mean, Boston, they're looking good. They're looking really good. So the bottom line for this team is keep the pedal to the metal, because you've got places to go. So do it.
Exactly. And like you were saying, you know, that series 2 years ago, I remember where I was. I was in DC for that. I think it was the same night that KD actually tore his Achilles, or it was in that same week at least that the Bruins lost the finals at home. I was so hyped for that game.
Yeah.
I was like, damn, the Bruins are going to take home the ship. You know? But
they had a chance to.
They really did against the Blues. Shout out to the Blues, though. They were like under 500 at one point in the year, and they came back and won the whole thing. So
yeah,
the Bruins this year, like Chet said, pedal on the metal, keep up the good work. You know, keep getting those goals. Keep having insane goaltending, and just bend but don't break. You know, because a lot of these games some of them have been high scoring, some of them have been low scoring, but they're currently tied for second in the league in points. So just keep on going there, because it's the NHL. And if one thing's for certain in the NHL, unlike any other playoffs, is that anybody can win the playoffs in hockey. So
absolutely,
this don't even matter, honestly. When it comes to April, May, June, just use what you got now, man.
Yeah, because I mean, the Bruins really sunk the ship last season in their playoff loss. I believe, yes, it was to the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they've got a chip on their shoulder. They've got a lot to prove, and they just got to keep up that production because right now I can't say anything negative really about this team.
Yeah,
so that's what's that?
That's it for sure. Yeah, there's not too much criticism directed their way, but they're on the team and they can really they're contenders. So,
all right, a great way to wrap up Unapologetic is Chet's Oscar Trophy. Chet's Oscar Trophy this week is going to J.J. Watt for finally getting out of Houston and is finally going to head to a playoff contender that may be either the Buffalo Bills or the Cleveland Browns. We will know in the next few weeks, or it could be another team. So J.J. Watt, enjoy Chet's Oscar Trophy. Yeah. Chet's Film Corner wasn't available this week. We really didn't have much we could make videos on, but obviously in the future, Chet's Film Corner will be bringing you more with that. But as always, thank you for joining Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy here on the Sports Fan Base Network, Rhode Island. We will see you every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Have a good night, everybody. And once again, as always, go Pats, baby.
Go Pats, and take it easy, guys.